Hello everybody, it's Nick here with Nick Tolman Music, and today we're going to go ahead and continue our beginner guitar lesson series using Mel Bay's Modern Guitar Method, Grade 1. Today we are looking at page 30. And this page is going to, basically, there's two parts to it. There's one exercise that is going to be a continuation of what we've been doing most recently, which is talking about chords. And it's very similar to the exercise we did 2 lessons ago called Long, Long Ago. This one is called Home, Home, Can I Forget? So it's basically just like a bass chord alternating thing that's going on, right? Where you have chords and you have bass notes that are forming a melody. So we'll do that. There's also a little discussion about tempos, which we will talk about, and there's also a duet on the bottom, which I'll go ahead and play both parts as I've done before, and it'll be great. So let's go ahead and dive in. Starting off, we're actually going to look at the middle of the page first and just have a little discussion about tempo. Now, obviously, the word tempo is basically, it has to do with the speed of the music that we're playing. And we're already familiar with this to some extent because we've been using a metronome regularly as we've gone through this book. The idea is that some music can be fast and some can be slow, and your tempo is how we measure that speed. Now, in written music, when you're reading music, the tradition has been over the years to use words from, mostly from Italian, that describe different aspects of music. So when you're reading music, you'll come across words all the time that you're like, I don't know what that word means, especially if you don't speak Italian, right? Some examples of this are right here on the page when you're looking at tempos, right? So we have 3 different ones that it gives us, and there are lots more, okay? But these are 3 examples. So Andante, Moderato, and Allegro. So those 3 are tempo markings that you might see in music. And they have meanings. So Andante, it says in here, a slow, easy pace. Andante literally means like a walking pace. Okay, so if you can imagine what that might feel like, Andante. Generally, when we talk about Andante, you know, you might be looking at setting your metronome in the 70 to 80 beats per minute kind of realm. So a lot of our exercises that we've done, we've started at 72. Definitely kind of an Andante kind of feel. Moderato would be more of a moderate tempo, right? When you're entering up into the maybe like 100 beats per minute to 120 beats per minute. And then we have Allegro, which says here lively, is a faster tempo, right? Generally when we talk about Allegro, that is a faster tempo. Now obviously there are a lot more musical descriptions that you might come across. And if you ever see a word written on the music in another language that you don't understand, feel free to Google it and see what it means, because it's probably just telling you something that has to do with like the style of the music or something that you need to kind of apply to what you're playing. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at Home, Home, Can I Forget Thee? So as I said previously, this one is very similar to Long, Long Ago as far as like the type of thing that we're doing. Something that's different here that you're going to see is that we have a repeat sign that is just going back to a section. We talked about this when we very first learned about repeats. We talked about how a repeat sign can either repeat back to the beginning, but if there's a forward repeat sign, that it's only going to repeat back to that point. So you'll see that down on the 3rd line. When you play to the end of the 3rd line, you'll hit the repeat sign, and you're going to repeat back to the beginning of the 3rd line because that's where the forward repeat is. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to play this exercise for you at 72. And we'll go from there. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready and play. 3 off. Yeah, nice little exercise, nice little melody. And it should be pretty straightforward with the types of exercises that we've been doing in the last few pages. A couple things that stand out to me on this one that you might watch out for. There are a couple of large jumps. So if you look at the second line and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th measure of that second line, you have, it starts on A, right? That is just kind of a spot that stood out to me as maybe a problem, where you skip down from playing notes on the G string to playing notes on the A string. Just maybe a spot that you might need to isolate, right? Now, another practice technique that you can use, and we actually haven't talked about this really in the series yet, but it's something that I do all the time, is what is called looping. Okay, so we've talked about isolating and we've talked about chunking, we've talked about other things, but looping is kind of like taking an isolated section. For instance, it could be this spot that we're talking about right now, and you do just that. You loop it over and over and over again until you feel comfortable with it. So I might turn my metronome on at 72 or whatever tempo I'm working at the time, and I'm just gonna loop. I'm just gonna go. And you'll find that the more you do this, the more that a difficult passage might become more automatic, right? Do that as many times as you need to, and when I say loop, like really, like you can just do it as much as you want. And once you feel comfortable with that tempo, you can bump it up, bump it up, bump it up, bump it up to where it needs to be. So looping is another great tool that you can do in conjunction maybe with isolation to just really drill a particular spot. I like to loop things when it's a spot that I'm consistently having trouble with. Like every time I play this song, I get to this spot and it always messes me up. I like to just isolate that spot and just loop it over and over and over and over again. I'm training my muscles that when I get to that spot the next time, I have a greater chance of my muscles executing it correctly rather than making the mistake that I usually do. All right, let's hear it at a little bit faster tempo. So here is 120. Home, home, can I forget thee? 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and. And there it is. All right, let's go ahead and move ahead. So let's take a look at the duet here on the bottom of the page. It's called Playtime. And I'm going to go ahead and play both parts for you. So I'm going to play the top part, and then I'll play the bottom part. And then I'm actually going to I'm going to show them to you together. That was requested in the comments sections on a previous video, and I think I'm going to start making that a norm on the duets, is to show you what they sound like together, and we'll go from there. So here we go. Here is the first line of Playtime. So this is the top line of Playtime at 72. Feel free to practice along with this if you're practicing the top line, but also practice the bottom line along with this so you can play the duet together. 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2. repeat. There we go. All right, this is probably the longest exercise that we've played so far in the book, but it's great. I mean, it's really like a full song. These things are starting to really develop and take place. So, in our last lesson, we had a discussion about chromatics, where we talked about sharps and flats, and this exercise definitely utilizes that. So that's kind of the new thing that's taking place here. And it doesn't really happen until the third and fourth lines, but you'll want to watch out because there are some accidentals, right? Accidentals being sharps or flats that take place in the middle of a measure that aren't necessarily in the original key signature. So on that third line, yeah, we run into a G sharp. Okay, so again, our open G would be here. So a sharp would be 1 fret higher, which would be the first fret, G sharp, right? And then it goes back to G natural, and then we have an F sharp, and then we have an F sharp, 4th fret on the D string, then back to F natural, and then a low G sharp, 4th fret on the 6th string, and then again a natural sign to take you back to G natural up here. And then the rest of the notes are natural the rest of the way through there. So that's the first line. Watch out for those. We're going to be utilizing that 4th finger, which we haven't done a lot of. If you need to practice that, please do. Spend some time working on that. I have a couple exercises that I use very regularly to help with using the 4th finger. They're available on my website, www.nicktolmanmusic.com, written out. You can download it for 99 cents on my website to download the exercise. But essentially what it does is it just walks you up and down the fretboard with your, it's called the lift and drop exercise is one of them. And you're just doing this type of thing. And it's a dexterity exercise, but also it uses the 4th finger, and it's really good for just developing strength in that. So feel free to check it out. I'll put the link in the description below so you can see what that's all about. All right, let's hear the second line. So here is the second line at 72. I'm going to go ahead and play the first note of the first line, and then I'll jump down into the second line. That way we start together, okay? So I'm going to play the first note of the first line, and then jump down to the second, and I'll play the second line the rest of the way through. 1, 2, 3, 1, and 2. rest, rest. Rest. Rest, rest, rest. Rest. Alright, so there we go. I actually played one wrong note in there, but that's alright. We're gonna move along with it. But that's the second line for you, and yeah, it's a good exercise. I like that second line. It's moving a lot down in the lower strings, which is good exercise for us there. And just like the first line, it does utilize some new chromatic notes, some accidentals, so watch out for those sharps as they come along. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and show you what this exercise sounds like at 72 with the parts together. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2. Alright, so there it is at 72. Let's go ahead and try this exercise at 120. So here is the top line at 120. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Alright, so here's the bottom line at 120. I'll go ahead and play the first note of the top line as usual, and then I'll jump down to the bottom line for the rest of it. 1, 2, 3, 1, and 2. There we go. Here is what they sound like together at 120. 1, 2, 3, 1, and 2. So that concludes our lesson today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe as always. If you haven't yet checked it out, please check out my website, www.nicktolmanmusic.com. I have a lot of great resources on there available for you to download. A lot of guitar exercises, music reading resources, all kinds of things like that. So check it out. It's new and it's growing, but there will continue to be more and more added to there all the time. If you haven't already checked out my Patreon page, also please do the same, and we will see you next time. Thank you.